Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast with me, Susan Tehrani, from New York City. Here are this hour's headlines. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak meets European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen in London on the Northern Ireland Protocol deal. Strong reactions in Israel on the rampage by Israeli settlers in the West Bank as Israel sends its troops. Minister Ben-Gvir admits this isn't the way. Egypt's foreign minister visited Damascus on Monday. This is the first visit to the Syrian capital by a top Egyptian diplomat since the 2011 civil war. Kremlin says China's peace plan should be analyzed in detail, but says there is nothing at the present time that would move the Ukraine crisis towards peace. Military operations in Ukraine will continue. China questions sanctions by the United States, says sanctioning of Chinese companies over certain exports to Russia is quote-unquote illegal. Delhi Deputy Chief Minister sent to 5-day CBI custody in a graft case. Manish Sisodia has been arrested in a multi-million-dollar liquor excise case. Signaling a major strategy shift, smartphone and telecom equipment manufacturer Nokia has decided to change its logo for the first time in nearly 60 years. The Kremlin has acknowledged China's proposal for a political solution in Ukraine, but has also added that the conditions for a peaceful resolution of the conflict are not in place at the moment, and therefore the so-called military operations in Ukraine will continue. Earlier, the Biden administration added Chinese and Russian companies to a trade blacklist for allegedly supporting the Russian military. China said that it would take resolute countermeasures in response to U.S. sanctions. Take a listen.
美方的行径没有任何国际法依据，也没有安理会授权，是典型的非法单边制裁和长臂管辖，严重损害中方利益。中方对此强烈不满和坚决反对，已向美方提出严正交涉。
The United States is watching China's moves on the Russia-Ukraine war very closely. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has vowed real consequences for China if it moves ahead with providing lethal aid to Russia.
We have at this point not seen them take the step of providing weapons to Russia for purposes of the war in Ukraine. We are watching closely. We know they haven't taken it off the table, and we are sending a clear message, as are our European allies, that this would be a real mistake because those weapons would be used to bombard cities and kill civilians, and China should want no part of that.
The United States and its NATO allies in recent days have been scrambling to dissuade China from such a move, making public comments on their belief that China is considering providing lethal equipment to Russia. Last February, before Russia invaded Ukraine, Russia and China signed a no-limit partnership. The economic link between Russia and China have also deepened, and Western suspicion has grown stronger. China has not condemned the conflict. In Bakhmut, the commander of Ukrainian ground forces, Colonel General Syrskiev, visited the town. He visited Bakhmut to boost morale and discuss strategy with the units. According to military experts, Ukraine will put maximum effort to defend Bakhmut in the coming days. Russia has made the capture of Bakhmut a priority in its strategy to take control of Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Anas Malik joins us live from Kyiv. Anas, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Ever since China's peace proposal last Friday, there have been varied reactions, first from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announcing his willingness to meet the Chinese president on the one hand, to U.S. President Joe Biden and his entire administration basically doubting the proposal, saying that it basically had no merit, and for the international community not to be fooled. Now, Russia is acknowledging the proposal, but says that conditions for a peaceful solution or a resolution is not in place. Are they all reading into this so-called peace plan differently on purpose?
Well, they're certainly reading into in different directions or in different dimensions, Susan. It won't be wrong to say because the Chinese plan, while it talks about de-escalation and basically gains or somewhat of a face saver for both the sides, the Russian side refuses to give up, and Russian side is of the opinion that it is currently not the opportune time to end the hostilities, and rather they would want to, quote, continue with this specialized military operation in Ukraine, unquote. So at this point of time, that is an indicator that the Russian side would want or is signaling to Ukraine and to other parties that the Western influence vis-a-vis the backing of Ukraine needs to be mellowed down, needs to be lowered down, and only then Russia would believe that it is an opportune time for peace talks. Otherwise, it's not happening. Susan?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to note that this so-called peace plan by China would basically freeze the front lines of the war. It would possibly give Russia swaths of Ukrainian land. So Ukraine is not happy with that, but then Russia isn't happy with that either, because it wouldn't be able to advance if it does have plans to do that. Okay, so all sides have their respective takes. How is the situation on the ground panning out right now?
Well, we've been here for a week now, for over a week, in fact, now, Susan. We were here last year, and if I take a stock or if I take an account of how the situation is, minus parts of South and the situation in East, the West and Center and parts of North are relatively in calm. It is what it looks like that the people of Ukraine have internalized the conflict, and they have now come to terms with the reality, which is the war, and that is what they have to continue their lives with. Earlier today we heard those air raid sirens, but nobody moved, and that is an indicator that people would want to take this as business as usual. People would want to continue with their daily routine irrespective of whatever that is happening in their surroundings, but at the same time deeply mourning and deeply fearful of the fact that the war can strike back. But and on the contrary, they're also hopeful that this just might end soon with a Ukrainian victory. Susan?
Anna, stay safe out there. Thank you for your extraordinary coverage and being our eyes and ears on the ground. We'll talk to you very soon. Okay, moving on. The Japanese government has decided to purchase 400 Tomahawk missiles from the United States. This comes in the face of China's growing military clout and nuclear-armed North Korea's unpredictable missile tests. Japan has set aside $1.5 billion to buy the missiles from the United States. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has said that Japan is beefing up the country's defense. He emphasized the military sensitivity of the purchase. Kishida's government wants to dramatically expand Japan's defense capacity. The country, which has had a pacifist constitution, updated its key security and defense policies, explicitly outlining the challenges posed by China. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has made some serious promises if chosen to power here in the United States. She vowed that if voted to the highest political seat in America, and arguably the world, she will cut foreign aid down to every cent for countries which hate America. She mentioned Pakistan, China, Iraq, and other countries. Earlier this month, two-term governor of South Carolina and the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations formally launched her 2024 presidential bid. According to Haley, U.S. has spent around $46 billion on foreign aid last year, given to countries like China, Pakistan, and Iraq. She also added that the U.S. taxpayers deserve to know where the money is going. She also criticized the Biden administration for resuming the military aid to Pakistan, pointing that it's a hub for terrorist organizations, and re-echoed her support to then-President Donald Trump's decision to cut nearly $2 billion of military aid to Pakistan. According to opinion polls, Haley is leading against President Joe Biden, but she trails behind leading GOP candidate, former President Donald Trump. If you're watching it from the United States of America, there is some news for you. If you get healthcare coverage through Medicaid, then you might be at a risk of losing that coverage by next year. According to Health and Human Services, at least 15 million Americans could lose access to their healthcare coverage as various states in the United States start checking everyone's eligibility for the first time in 3 years. Roughly 84 million people are covered by the government-sponsored program, which has grown by 20 million since the start of the pandemic in 2020. At the beginning of the pandemic, the federal government prohibited states from removing people from the state-sponsored healthcare system, even if they were not eligible. However, before the COVID-19 pandemic started, people would regularly lose their Medicaid coverage if they started making too much money to qualify for the program or gaining healthcare coverage through their employer. All these criteria stopped once the COVID-19 pandemic started, but it has been resumed again. The states will now be required to start checking the eligibility of every person who is on Medicaid. People will have to fill out forms to verify their personal information, including address, income, and household size. And those who will no longer qualify for Medicaid coverage can turn to the Affordable Care Act's marketplace for coverage, where they can find healthcare coverage options that may cost less than $10 a month.
In order to invest in America, foreigners need dollars. To accumulate those dollars.
An Iranian deputy minister has made some shocking revelations. According to state media reports, the deputy health minister said that some people were poisoning schoolgirls in the holy city of Qom with the aim of shutting down education for girls. Since late November, hundreds of cases of respiratory poisoning have been reported among schoolgirls in Qom, Mailing, south of Tehran, with some needing hospital treatment. On Sunday, the deputy health minister, Younes Panahi, confirmed the poisoning had been deliberate. According to the minister, after the poisoning of several students in Qom schools, it was found that some people wanted all schools, especially girls' schools, to be closed. However, Panahi did not elaborate. There have been no arrests linked to the poisoning so far. On February 14th, parents of students who fell sick gathered outside the city's government to demand an explanation from authorities. The next day, government spokesman said that intelligence and education ministries were trying to find the cause of the poisonings. Last week, Prosecutor General Mohammad Jafar Montazeri ordered a judicial probe into the incident. The poisonings come as Iran has been rocked by protests since the September 16th death in custody of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini for alleged violation of the country's strict dress code. Another round of layoffs is underway at Twitter. According to reports, Twitter has laid off another 10% of its workforce. Elon Musk-owned Twitter has laid off 200 employees over the weekend. This marks the 8th round of job cuts since Musk took over the social media network late October. The layoffs reportedly affects several engineering teams, including those supporting advertising technology. the main Twitter app, as well as technical infrastructure to keep Twitter's system up and running. The report cites people with direct knowledge of the matter that the layoffs also hit a senior Twitter executive who went viral after her photo of sleeping at the Twitter office to meet a deadline surfaced online. She was also heading various projects such as blue tick verification subscription and the upcoming payment platform. Earlier, Twitter laid off half of its workforce, and later some left after Musk's controversial email. Since Musk acquired Twitter, the firm has been firing employees in batches. According to reports, before his takeover, Twitter had around 7,500 employees. Now the count could be around 2,000 employees. U.S. chemical giant Dow Inc. has been left red-faced again. An investigation report has exposed its program of recycling old shoes. Dow Inc. launched a first-of-its-kind recycling program in 2021 in collaboration with the Singapore government. The plan was to annually recycle 170,000 old shoe pairs from the country. The recycled product was to be used in jogging, tracks, fitness corners, and playgrounds. But an investigative report found that the sneakers were instead being resold in Indonesia. The expose was made by Reuters back in July last year. Its reporters donated 11 pairs of old shoes with hidden trackers in their soles to Dow's recycling program. Take a listen.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a cavity hole in the sole of each pair of shoes, one of the shoes in each pair. Place the tracker in there. We're going to then cover it up, and then we'll take the shoes off, drop them off in one of the locations. Dow have given dozens of locations around Singapore. We're going to place a shoe in many of those, and then we'll see where they go.
However, it was found that none of the 11 shoes made it to a Singapore recycling facility. Instead, all of them were moved to the warehouse of a Singaporean secondhand goods exporter. Subsequently, some of the shoes found its way to Indonesia's Batam Island.
These are the two shoes which we bought today from that Batam market. I am going to look inside and check if our trackers are in there. There we are. And there is the other one.
This is the second expose of Dow's novel recycling scheme. The previous one was also exposed by Reuters back in 2021. It was found that a U.S. company was burning plastic trash to fuel a cement plant instead of turning into clean fuel using breakthrough technology. According to environmental groups, such companies sell the promise of new recycling technologies to lull the public into a false sense of security about the environmental impact. According to a 2013 study published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology, a product advertised as recyclable material sells more. Let's talk about smartphones that you and I can't imagine our lives without. What do you do when there is an issue with your phone? You take it to an authorized service center and get it repaired, right? Well as you know, repair costs many a time are outrageously expensive. And that's a reason the right to repair movement is gaining momentum in many parts of the world. Some companies are now trying to empower users to fix their own devices with self-repair kits. The latest to jump on the bandwagon is HMD Global, the maker of Nokia phones. The company has launched a budget Android model. It's called the Nokia G22. It's been designed in a way that users can repair it themselves, even at home. The internal components like the battery, screen, and charging port can be easily unscrewed and swapped. The Nokia G22 has a recyclable plastic back which can be removed to swap out broken components. Nokia has partnered with repair firm iFixit for the concept. Replaceable parts can be bought individually from iFixit. The G22 is priced at £150, which is roughly $180. Nokia isn't the only mobile brand that is coming up with such ideas. Dutch firm Fairphone also sells a range of phones that are easily repairable. Smartphone companies are under pressure to make electronic devices more sustainable. Therefore, they are coming up with novel ways to make phones last longer. Everything Everywhere All at Once reigns supreme at this year's Screen Actors Guild Award. Award season's favorite won 4 major awards and broke the record for most wins for a single film. It won Best Motion Picture at the 29th Screen Actors Guild Awards. The Metaverse adventure movie also claimed 3 acting awards for lead female actor Michelle Yeoh and supporting actors Ke Huy Quan and Jamie Lee Curtis. Ke Huy Quan also became the first Asian male film winner at the SAG Awards. The winner of Outstanding Actor in a Film was Brendan Fraser for The Whale, beating out fellow nominees including Colin Farrell and Austin Butler. Coming to the small screen, The White Lotus landed the top television trophy for the show's second season, set in Italy, about wealthy vacationers and the staff who served them at a ritzy resort. The series has become quite a popular show across the world. Meanwhile, the series star Jennifer Coolidge took home the award for Best Female Actor in a drama series for her role as a wealthy vacationer. The winners were chosen by members of the SAG-AFTRA acting union. The film honorees are closely watched because actors make up the largest group of voters for March 12's Academy Awards. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching WION Live Broadcast from New York City with me, Susan Tehrani. I'll see you tomorrow. Meanwhile, don't go away. More news and headlines coming up next, only on WION World is One.
There are many other